Hi, it's Paul Antonelli here. This is welcome to another episode of the Ideal Business Podcast. It's all about helping you build or transform your business into a business that truly works for you. I'm on the road at the moment, living the entrepreneurial nomad life. I've been on the road for almost 4 months, and currently this has been recorded at a place called this is the Douglas River behind me, and we've been camping in this location here in the top end in the Northern Territory, which is a top end of Australia. Just thought I'd give you that backdrop. Okay, today I'm going to talk about love and business. Normally these two things don't go together, but I thought I'd have a bit of a discussion around this and share my thoughts on it. And the title is, Have You Fallen Out of Love with Your Business? So probably you're thinking, oh, what's love got to do with business? I don't need to love my business. No, basically, if it makes money for me, if you think back to I shared with you the idea of the A plus B equals C formula, make lots of money, it'll be great, I'll have a great life, which, if you've been in business for a while, that's not actually the case. It's not actually the way it works. So it's probably a good question to ask. Are you in love with your business? And let me share some of my own experience and why I believe this is really important. As you know, I've been bankrupt before. I've had businesses that have failed. One of my first major businesses was a manufacturing business. We made lots of concrete, and we ended up with and it was quite young. I was in my late 20s when I launched this business. We had partners in it as well. Complex business, lots of capital intensity. Didn't really have much idea around what would be a good business. I had that very simple A plus B equals C formula. Just build a business, grow it, make money, make profit, life's good. So I sort of had that concept of A plus B equals C. That all imploded. We walked out of our house. I had two small kids. It was pretty ugly. And I remember in the final stages of that business just going, how do I get out? How do I get out of this business? Because it had been almost 5 years. Whilst we had grown the revenue, it was actually making profits. It was very hungry for cash flow. I was working 60, 70, 80-hour weeks. Never got to see my young kids, who were very small at that time. And so I just remember going, God, I just don't love this business, And the reason it was really clear I didn't love it is because if I could have walked away from it, I would have done. But it was quite hard. It was actually quite, lots of commitments. We've got loans, we've got products, projects in place, lots of employees. So it's not that easy to simply walk away from it. But I distinctly remember that phase where I'm going, why did we do this? What's the whole point of all this? And so that was a bit of an experience. It did, that's where the bankruptcy thing followed on. And it was a pretty tough time to be going through all that. And so the idea of loving the business is actually really important, because one of the things that I reflected back on, why didn't I love it? Because it wasn't delivering what we wanted in life, it was, and there's a bit of a plan, which is like, oh, you'll get there eventually, but what do you have to sacrifice in the short term, maybe the medium term, maybe in the long term, might be 10 years or 15 years to be able to, get what you want out of it. Are you prepared to do that? So fast forward from that, one of my recent businesses, ResiCert, which is a property inspection business I've talked about before, completely different business model. Took away a lot of learnings from being bankrupt, having gone bankrupt, and those type of businesses, and set the business up totally different. It's a great business, but even with that business, we'd been in the business about 4 or 5 years down the track, and it was a tough, it was tough because we'd grown the business. I franchised it after a year, went national after 2 years, and lots of flights, lots of movements, lots of activity, lots of doing new things. And I remember 5 or 6 years down the track, just asking myself, I don't really love this business anymore. I'd sort of fallen out of love with the business. The difference was, I guess, with this business was it was structured in a way that I could fall back in love with it. In my previous business, I have a template, what I call rate a business format. It didn't really matter what I did with it. I was never going to love that business. So from that business, the manufacturing, the only real way for it to work for me was to really exit, move away from it. But with ResiCert, it was actually set up in a way that I knew would work for me. But we'd gotten to a point, we're getting stuck. There's a bit of Groundhog Day. We hit a bit of a ceiling with revenue. And so I just remember at that time going, I just don't love it anymore. I think there'd been a lot of hard work, fatigue had come into it. So it was actually a time to reflect and go. And when I started going through that, it's the worst place to be when you're running and you own a business and you're engaged in it, is you don't love it. The passion's not there. Your motivation's not there. You turn up every day. It's hard, as someone who owns a business and runs it, you've always got to be positive. You've got to be the person up front. You've got to be driving it. But it's really hard to do that when you don't actually love it and believe in it as you need to. So that was about 5, 6, maybe. That was 4 or 5 years in. It was about 7 or 8 years ago. So I went through a bit of a process of how do I love this business again? So I looked closely at, why? What was it about it? And you might relate to some of this. I guess there was lots of hours, and there was periods where I wasn't doing lots of hours as we were building, but now all of a sudden there was lots of hours. There was lots of repetitive activity that I was still involved in. I was spending a lot of time in the business. And these are the things that sort of lead to what I'd call fatigue. You get really tired of doing them. And if, as an entrepreneur, we don't like doing the same thing over and over again. So it was very clear that if I was going to take the business to the next level, I needed to fall back in love with the business. I needed to make the changes so that I could go, I love this business. Fast forward again to where we are today. This is probably 7 or 8 years later. The business has been running for 12 and a half years. It's a great business. And so during that last period, I went through a process of looking at how do I fall back in love with my business so I can truly put my hand on my heart and say, I love this business. It's fantastic. And so that's what we've done. And so now it is a business that I love. What actually changed? Well, I guess there was a few things that, from my own experience and talking to other business owners, there's a few things that sort of lead you or help sort of take you down the path of falling out of love with the business. And it's the same with, you have a relationship with your business, just as you have a relationship with your partner or your wife or with family members or with friends, you have a relationship. And that relationship, it's really important that it's a bit of a give and take, isn't it? If you find that you're in a relationship which is all about take and there's no give, you start building up a little bit of resentment potentially. There's some doubts as to if that relationship is the right relationship for you. And it's the same with your business. So one of the things that and I'm just going to go through some of the factors that I think that lead you to falling out of love with your business. I don't know if you're there, but you'll know that yourself, or do you fully love your business? I'm just going to go through some of the key things that lead to that point. Probably one of the first things is this idea of too much take and not enough give. And that's probably related to that A plus B equals C formula. Just get into it, just do whatever it takes, make lots of money, and everything else takes care of itself. Business really isn't like that. Business is a long game. And so if you're not able to take whilst you're giving, then it builds resentment up, whether it's you personally, whether it's your partner or your kids going, when are you going to spend some time with us, and it's always about, when I get there, I'm doing this for you, I'm putting my time into this business, I'm doing it for my family, I'm doing it for my kids. But over time, even you start building there's too much, you're giving too much, you're not getting much out of it. You can do that for a period of time, but after a while, you need to get something out of it. So that's the first thing. And so to deal with that, you need to make sure that there is a bit of fair give and take. The second thing that leads to falling out of love with the business is it's sort of, and this is very normal with entrepreneurs, it's fatigue or repetition or boredom almost. So you might have been in your business for 5 or 6 or 7 years, doing all the things that it was doing before, but there's still activity that you have to do in your business that you just don't want to do anymore. You simply don't want to do that stuff anymore. And so that can lead to, I've just got to get away from that stuff, you know. So if you find that you're procrastinating on particular activity, or you're spending time on things you don't enjoy, that's gonna reduce the love that you have for your business. That's just natural, isn't it? Now, the other thing that reduces the love for anything is stress. Yeah, it's, you know, the unknown and stress. And let's face it, I mean, business, that's what business is all about. Business is all about the unknown and lots of stress that comes with it. And a lot of time it's around cash flow. So if your business has, you know, you don't really have full confidence over cash flow, you know, some months are good, some months are down, weeks go up and down, you're not quite sure how you're going to pay this bill or pay that bill, that becomes really stressful. And it's really hard to really love something when it's giving you stress. It's giving you, you know, it's challenges. And so that's another area, and it's pretty big, you know, for a lot of businesses, the clients that I've worked with, I've noticed that cash flow is a big issue for most businesses. It's the bloodline. It's one of the main reasons that most businesses fail. So stress, which can be linked to cash flow, can also be linked to team management. It can be linked to market challenges, all sorts of things, you know. But stress. So when you look at these sorts of factors, you know, if you've got fatigue, if you've got stress that comes into play, if you've got, you just too much give, not enough take, you're not getting enough out of your business, these will all reduce the level of, you know, if you go, oh, I like my business, you know, this makes it hard for you to go, I really love my business. And so there is, the good news is that it is possible to fall back in love with your business. But in order to do that, it's about looking very closely at, why don't you love your business? Why can't you make that statement? I absolutely love my business. You know, but truly, you know, I know you'll find that a lot of business owners, we want to look successful. We want to, families and friends will say, how's business going? Oh, it's fantastic. It's going really well. And even if it's not, you know, we all like to look successful, like things are going really well, even if it's not going that great. So internally, you might be in a bit of a conflict because you've got to present the image of success and it's going really well and it's going, but it might not be. And that's actually quite challenging because when you've got that lack of congruency between the reality and the way you communicate, you know, it creates some conflict, I guess, internal conflict more than anything else. So I think it's important to, you know, if you do love your business, absolutely, that's fantastic. You're in a great position and you can sort of, you know, you'll understand potentially previously how this might have impacted you. But if it's not ideal for you at the moment, if it's not your ideal business, because if it was your ideal business, you would absolutely love it 100%. And as I've talked about before, that if you don't love it 100% at the moment, you've fallen out of love with your business and you want to get back into love with your business, then it's about identifying. The first step is to really work out, why is it that you don't love your business? What is it about the business that you go, no, there's things about it that drive me nuts. What is it? Articulate it. Make up a bit of a punch list of what that is. And then we've got a lot of information about how you tackle those things. And if you were to go, look, if this was absolutely, just love my business, absolutely, it's fantastic, what would it need to look like? So the part of this process is going, what is it about the current business, your current scene, that is causing you not to love your business as much as you should, or you would, or you'd want to? And then what would that need to look like if you were to really love and totally, you know, you could just put your hand on your heart and go, love my business, absolutely. It's a really good exercise to do. A lot of times we don't do that. We find it quite confronting. It can be really confronting to actually ask yourself that question, because you sort of started with a picture and away you go, and you've just head down and you've just gone for it. You're pushing. But it actually is at a certain point in time, it's worth sort of stopping and considering, you know, is it actually grooved in? Is it actually doing what I would love for it to do? And it is possible. I guess as I've said to you, we've got our program, the Ideal Business Program, is about helping business owners create their ideal business. And an ideal business is a business which the owner loves, absolutely loves it. It's just in every way, shape and form. So thanks for listening today. Hopefully that was a bit of an insight. It's a bit of a, I guess it's unusual when we're talking about business to be talking about love, but at the end of the day, the business is a natural extension of ourselves, our own life. And so the best space you can be is in a position where you just absolutely love your business. Thanks for listening again. Look forward to catching you up with another episode. Ciao for now.